Good morning there, Year 3, and how are you today? Welcome to your English lesson. So before we begin, as always, we're going to do a little bit of retrieval. So this is going over what we've learned in the previous lessons. So you have this on your worksheet, and what I want you to do, I want you to give me examples for each of the features below, okay? And how would they look like in a diary? So I want you to pause the video here, and I want you to just jot some notes around on your spider web there, and then we'll come back to it. Pause the video now, and off you go. Welcome back there. Okay, let's see if we have got the same answers, okay? So this is really using your skills and to remember those key features of a diary entry. Okay, so the first one that we're going to have a look at, let me just move my video just a little bit, is past tense. Okay, so things that have already happened. Do you remember we've talked about that before? So it's not something that is going to happen, it's something that's already happened. It's in the past. Okay, so here I've got a couple of examples: awoken, jumped, awaited, seen, took. Okay, and those are examples of things that have already happened. She took my coat. I awaited the postman and he arrived at 10 o'clock. I have seen all the treasure that was buried in the sand. Okay, so those are examples of past tense. Our next one, okay, is informal style. Remember, you're writing a diary and it's for you. It's not really for anybody else. So you don't need to speak in your very best language. You can use an informal style, a more relaxed way of writing, okay? And here we've got words as hadn't instead of had not, and weren't instead of were not, and oh my instead of she was really shocked, okay? And then we've also got first person. Remember, you are the author, you are the writer. Therefore, you need to write about yourself. I, me, my. It's your diary. You're not writing about somebody else. You are writing about yourself. So we need to make sure that we are writing in first person. Then also, we need to include our thoughts and our feelings. So things like, oh, it was glorious, spectacular, I felt amazing. Oh, I was very forlorn. I was quite upset. Okay, so it's thinking about how can you get your thoughts and feelings into the text? What are you going to use? What words will you use to get that into the text? Then we've also got our time adverbials and our conjunctions. Things like after, before, later, as soon as, when, and once. Remember, we need to add these into our diary so we know when each key event happened. Really key. And we need to make sure that we get the date in there. We have to get the date in there so we know when the things happened. And then that also links to the chronological order. We know when this entry in your diary is from. So for example, here I've put the 12th of January 1929. Could be 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You can choose if you want to put the time. You don't always need to, but a date is key. And then you need to order all the events and how they happened. So you need to put them in order of when they happened. Okay. Excellent. So let's get on to today's lesson. Our learning objective today is to write the introduction paragraph of our diary. So we're going to be linking back to the work that we did on Tuesday, where you created your plan. And we're going to be looking at the first part, and we're going to be writing a diary introduction today. So in your introduction, you might want to include, in fact, no, you will need to include a date and a time adverbial. You're going to be using in past tense verbs. Remember, it's already happened. You are writing a recount of what's happened. You are not writing about what is going to happen. You're writing about what has already happened. So it's in the past. You'll need to choose your words carefully to convey your emotions. So really thinking about what would be the appropriate word to use here to show how I am feeling. And you could use exclamation sentences or a rhetorical question in there. And that shows to the readers that as a writer, you were really thinking about the events that were happening there. Okay? So We're going to write our introduction today to our diary. But remember, we're not going to be ourselves. It's not going to be a diary about what we're doing. We are going to be taking on the role of Lila from the Firework Maker's Daughter. So from our reading lessons earlier in the week when we've been reading the story, we know that she set off on a journey to Mount Merapi. And she was amazed by the sheer size of the volcano when she saw it in the distance. Today, we're going to write the diary entry to describe that day in the story, which Lila sees the mountain just before she travels through the jungle. So we're going to be thinking about the key events that happened. Do you remember on Tuesday when we did our work then? We were doing a setting description about what we could see, feel, hear, touch, taste. We thought about all those things. We're going to be using some of those today to help us. So the other day you had your plan. Have you got your plan handy? If you have, that's fantastic. If you haven't, you will need to stop the video and you will need to go and find that plan. It's key to help you today. Because if you haven't got your plan, we can't then write our introduction. So if you haven't got it, pause now, go and find it. And if you have got it, amazing. Let's continue. So I'm going to show you an example today of an introduction for Captain James Cook's adventures. So I'm going to teach you how to use the plan to help you write your introduction. So have you got your plan with you? Fantastic. Well done. Let's go then. So on your plan, do you remember you had your who, what, where, when? Hopefully you have put down all those key bits of information that link to the Firework Maker's Daughter. Okay, remember, this is just an example to show you how you are going to use your plan. Please do not copy this because this is not going to link to the story. All right, so who? Well, for Captain James Cook's diary, our key people is going to be James Cook himself and the skipper that's shouting land ahoy. Now what? Well, they discovered a tropical island with azure waves and golden sands. I love those adjectives there that are describing the beach. Sounds like an absolutely amazing tropical beach. When you are writing your diary, how can you convey the sheer amazement that Lila feels when she sees the volcano? What adjectives will you use to describe that, to make it amazing? So where did the event take place? Well, he sailed from Matafi to Hunain Island. And when did this happen? They set off last night and they arrived at 6 a.m. this morning. Remember, putting times and dates are key for your diary. So let's then have a look at the emotional vocabulary, the past tense, first person, informal language, rhetorical questions, exclamation sentences, and fronted adverbials. Whew, got that all out then. Okay. So for emotional vocabulary, remember what we've just talked about there is that they are discovering a tropical island. So how are they going to be feeling? They're going to be feeling blown away, amazing. It's a glorious sight, a spectacular sight. There is no winds and it's been really good. The sea has been calm. We're going to be talking about how they're feeling about the event that is unfolding. Okay, remember, when we're writing it, it's already happened. So we're thinking back to how they would be feeling at the very beginning. And that leads me into the past tense. Remember, it's about what already has happened. So please don't write things like, I am going to. It'd be, as I approached the volcano, I felt in awe at its sheer size. Remember to use that past tense when you're writing. It's key for a diary entry. And remember, you are going to be Lila. You need to become Lila. So you'll need to be writing in the first person. I, me, my. Remember, it's a diary that you're writing for yourself. So imagine Lila is going to be writing this diary for herself. So she can use the informal language. She might want to use language that makes her feel more relaxed. Language that she wouldn't use if she was speaking to the king, for example. Now, rhetorical questions. We haven't really spoken a lot about this, but a rhetorical question is a question that you ask yourself. So, for example, did my eyes deceive me? No, I sure was standing in front of the most amazing volcano. How could we have arrived so quickly? The jungle was dense and I was struggling to get through. Can you see how then you're asking a question to yourself? Okay? And then that leads me into exclamation sentences. What an amazing sight! I thought to myself. How extraordinary! So it's things that you're saying again to yourself. Do you know sometimes when we talk to ourselves and you say things like, oh, I'm really shocked that that happened. I can't believe it. I was blown away by the sheer beauty. You can add those in to your diary entry as well and make it more exciting. Then we need to use our fronted adverbials. For example, after, later, when, once, before, as soon as. Remember, you can start your different sentences with these fronted adverbials, and that will make your writing more interesting. I have a diary introduction here that I want to share with you. Now, you'll notice that there's different parts of it in different colours. Can you see that? Brilliant. Now, these different colours represent the parts that we have just looked at. So if I move my cursor down here, we've got emotional vocabulary. So anything that's in this colour is linked to that. We've got past tense. Anything that's this colour, the green, it is linked to that. First person, say, informal language, rhetorical question, exclamation sentences, and fronted adverbials. So when we're reading through, so I'm going to read it in a minute to you, keep looking and seeing what is that linked to. So I've put these here so you can check when I start reading, that must be that. That must be that. Now before I start, I haven't put down date and time, but we know that date and time is really important to have in our diary introduction. So here I've got the date, but here I've got the time, okay? And that's a key piece of information you need to get into your diary introduction. Okay, let's begin. I'm going to read it now, follow along and notice when I've got those key elements of the diary there. Dear Diary, after leaving the Bay of Matavi late last night, our ship steered north towards the island of Huane. Early this morning at 6 a.m., I was awoken by the call of "Land ahoy!" from one of the skippers, who was on deck. I took a brief look at the clock on the bedstand and couldn't quite believe my eyes. Had we really arrived so quickly? The winds must have been good. Quickly, I raced to put on my clothes and headed onto deck. What awaited me was a spectacular sight. As far as the eye could see, azure waves lapped the golden sands of the island shore. What a place to discover! Did you notice lots of those elements in that piece of text?